It's Saturday morning. That means it's time for Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan. Here I am. Here he is.
Hey, Dan. Good morning.
Good morning, Raffi. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thanks. And yourself?
How is your sequester doing?
I am being heavily sequestered here, but for the most part, I, still get some time to get out to the garage and tinker on the car, and so everybody's healthy and happy and doing the best we can.
Awesome. I have like we talked about earlier, my glasses are causing a horrible glare today, which is not a problem for the podcast.
That's true. No one would be able to tell.
Yes, the audio version of this is being streamed everywhere in the world, but the video version, my glasses have an amazing. I'll just keep my head down like this. That way people can see. So the car business is picking back up a little bit. A lot of states have let car dealers reopen.
Yeah,
and a lot of them are doing appointment only. A lot of them are doing, big spacing and, one person at a time in the dealership. So it will speed up the process, I hope. Keeping you there for 5 hours, which used to be the old trick to wear you down and get you to buy the undercoating. I'm still not sure what undercoating is. And but all of that, might be going away. You'll do a lot of the buying before you even get there. You'll do it online. You'll try different things out. But I saw an article today that every time I see one of these, how to beat the dealer, or they're giving away secrets, and it's usually written by somebody that, has bought 3 cars in their entire life, and their grandfather told them, this is the secret. This is what you do.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd go over some of these myths and some of these ideas, and we can discuss between you and I what we think. And then we also will get comments in the comment section. They're starting to come in already.
Oh, good.
That if you have any questions about buying, selling, trading, leasing, anything about cars, really, because Raffi is the human Google of cars.
Who knew?
And we do a thing called the game where you ask a question, a random question, like something that deep knowledge, like you have to Google it beforehand. And then you can post the question. I figured out the new way to do it. You post the question in comments. Raffi and I will each give an answer. One of them is complete BS. One of them is just made up out of the blue, but it's going to sound kind of real. And the other one is 100% real.
There is also one chance that both could be BS. Am I correct on that, Dan?
There is a chance. Yes. If neither of us really know the answer, they could both be BS. That's always the thing. So one of the things that a lot of people say is what's the best day of the week to buy a car? And what would you guess the best day of the week to buy a car would be?
Well, I would imagine the best day to buy a car would be Friday. Everybody wants to go home. The dealer's tired. The salesmen are tired. They're looking to close on it. And probably Friday, and probably end of the month Friday.
Well, Friday's actually a great day for a dealer to sell a car. Friday to a dealer is like a Monday to everyone else. The sales meeting is typically Friday morning. Everyone works on Friday typically at the dealership. It heads into the weekend. They get more aggressive. So your answer is right and wrong. It's right in the fact that the dealers really want to get the weekend started. If they can, get a few cars delivered on Friday, going into the big Saturday weekend sale. It's always a sale, but there's really no difference between any day of the week. They'll sell you the car as long as you agree to buy it at the price they agree to sell it for. This one says is Monday.
Monday.
And I disagree with that bigly. I think Monday is a bad day because Monday is the day when they're trying to finalize all the deals from the weekend. Right. So the finance department is really busy. The sales management team is usually busier on Monday, in my opinion. Monday was always the day that, you don't take off on Monday if you're in management. You have to be there on Monday. Sure. That's when, finalizing the deal means, let's say you delivered a car over the weekend and you're waiting for pay stubs for the finance company to be able to actually finance the car. This is when you're on the phone, you're begging, come on, bring it back in. We're going to have to come get the car, all that BS. This one says there are more than a few myths. It looks like it's written backwards about car buying. Some of the more popular ones suggest you can score a deal by going to the showroom on a busy weekend or right before they're about to close. They're saying the data says otherwise. They're saying that Monday is actually the best deal, statistically speaking.
Monday.
Yeah. Saved as much as 8.1% versus the average of 8% savings.
Now, let me make sure I understand this. 0.1% savings on average.
Above the normal average, yes.
Well,
That's what they're saying.
From a statistical perspective, a 0.1%, that's really more like a calculation error in terms of statistics.
Yeah, I know. And it said, here's their thinking, that Mondays are not as busy and a salesperson might have more time to negotiate. If you come prepared, ready to negotiate, the added time is on your side. That is true. From a salesman standpoint, Monday's usually dead. Mondays are not as busy. So that part is true. I would say Tuesday is a better day, but that's just, again, my opinion. The lenders are always open on Monday, but again, the lenders are usually busy on Monday because they're doing all the deals from the weekend as well.
Sure.
Some dealers will sell 40 cars Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and sell 10 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you can see how important the weekend is to most dealerships.
Yeah.
And that's why if you get in the car business, become a general manager as fast as you can, because they usually work Monday through Friday. Everyone else, if you're in the car business, you're working evenings, you're working weekends. Your weekend is Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday.
And Dan, a lot of dealerships are closed throughout the United States on Sundays, and that's
true. By law, some of them are.
They called them the blue laws, I think.
Yeah. Here in the Seattle area, there's a few that are like Peninsula Subaru, right out in Gorst, right outside of Bremerton. They always say closed on Sunday for Family Day.
Family Day. There you go.
Another old myth is May. Buy a car in May.
What is it that's so magical about May? I've never even heard that as a myth.
It says the folklore is that everyone has been cooped up for the winter. This one's not, of course, this article's not worried about pandemics. Everyone's been cooped up for the winter, and May is when people start going out. Memorial Day is like the start of summer. That's when the big deals are.
Oh.
You buy your car for grads and dads. They always do the grads and dads.
Yeah, that I remember. Yeah.
Although in May it would be moms and bombs, right? Wouldn't it be like Memorial Day and Mother's Day?
I think it's moms and proms.
Moms and proms. Oh,
yeah.
Buy a car for the prom.
Yeah.
October, some people think, is a big deal. And October is a lot of times a good time to buy a car because the new model year comes out typically in September. At least that's how it used to always be.
Yeah.
Some of the companies like Tesla, if you buy a car, if a car is made on December 31st, 2020, it's a 2020 model. They literally, their models are based on the day it was made. Not this whole, hey, here's the brand new 2021, or even weirder when they come out with like a 2022 and it's like 18 months away. You're like, how is this possible? Kind of like the 64.5 Mustang, right?
There you go. The 64.5 Mustang came out in April, and they wanted to surprise everybody and give it its own sort of debut. And boy, it sure worked because people camped out in front of the showroom to have the opportunity to come in and just place their order. Some people even bought whatever was there in the dealership rather than place an order in order to get it as soon as possible.
That's insane, isn't it? I mean, that's like the iPod of the 60s.
It was, in fact, the iPod of the 60s. And, within, I believe, a year, they had sold 1 million Mustangs, which is unprecedented. There's never really been anything quite like that in the automobile world since the debut of the Mustang. It really did hit the market perfectly.
What about the Model 3 Tesla? I mean, they went crazy with orders as soon as they announced that because it was going to be $35,000, and they had so many pre-orders. Even the Cybertruck had something like 200,000 pre-orders.
Yeah, and
It's about $1 million though.
generally speaking, the pre-order system is actually a pretty good way of figuring out, for manufacturing purposes, how to stage your flow of manufacture and all that. But with Ford, they announced it, and product was there. There was no pre-order. There was no, you're going to get one eventually. It was, we're making them, you're buying them, here they come.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of I think, the surprise and the magnitude of that. And it was literally a national, if not a world event.
Yeah. And then the next one they go with is November. They say November is the next one because now you're running into inventory liquidation time. Now they've got to start getting rid of cars. You've got too many of the 20s are left, and the 2021s are coming. They're arriving. They're on the lot. They're on the lot now. Got to get rid of the 2020s. And the problem is, a lot of people are like, well, if I get a 2021, I'm going to get a 2021. I don't want a 2020.
Right.
So that's when they start with the big rebates and the big incentives.
For all intents and purposes, unless there's a whole new platform or new car design, new body design, or something significant that's really radically altered the design of the vehicle, there's oftentimes no difference between a 2018 and a 2019 model.
Right. Although the Corvette would be a good example.
Yes, the Corvette's an excellent example because they're changing the series. They're moving to the next series, and the entire platform is radically different.
Yeah, it's a mid-engine car now. It looks very Italian, I would say.
Yeah. Very, very different car.
Yeah, and so what they're doing is something that they haven't done since 9/11, as far as I know. They're doing 84 months, and even back in 9/11, I've told that story before. They did 72 months for 0%. You can get a 19 Corvette right now because nobody wants them for 84 months at 0%. 0%, which is
Corvette. Is just crazy.
Right. We've talked about it to death. How to. I mean, 0%. A lot of people are like, yeah, but it's a new car. I don't have 7 years of payments. You're paying 0%.
Yeah.
Your payment is literally just divide by 84. That's your payment. And it's free money. And we talked about, put the money in your account. There's so many different things you could do. Don't pay with a credit card. That would make a big mistake unless you pay your credit card off every month.
Yeah.
Because then if you can make your payment with a credit card, which some of them allow you to do, most of them don't, but some of them do. If you could pay with a credit card, then you get points.
Yeah. Or miles.
Not that you're going to fly anywhere right now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about flying in a minute too. It has nothing to do with cars, but an interesting thing that I looked into the other day. Now, according to TrueCar, a customer can save 8.5%. So we're up 0.5 over the normal savings you can get on New Year's Eve and 8.3% on New Year's Day. I think New Year's Day is because they're drunk and they're hungover.
That could be.
And they come in really late.
There you go.
Yeah. So New Year's Eve, though, my wife and I, she bought an Audi A4 New Year's Eve 2004 at Santa Monica Audi.
Oh, I know that.
I had taken a delivery in the morning of an 04 Hyundai XG350L. And she saw that I had a new car and was like, well, you can't have a nicer car. So, because that should be one of the vows in the wedding that, I love, honor, cherish, and I promise to drive the crappier car.
Thou shalt drive the better car.
Yeah. So, we had a home equity line on the condo we were living in, and she was like, you know what? I want to get an Audi A4. I've always wanted one, and I think it's time. And I go, okay, let's go. So we went over there around 6:00, New Year's Eve. And when we showed up, we were the only person there. Like, they were ready to close already. And I had told her, hey, listen, your trade-in is worth, $4,300 tops. And, your net out the door should be no more than the 30 grand. It was an A4 with the trade-in and tax, license, everything, 30 grand tops. And she's like, okay. So they come out, they give us a sticker, they do this, they tell us everything. And it's like, it's going to be 36 out the door. I go, nah, that's not going to work. And they're like, well, let's see what we can do. And the guy disappears. I'm like, I'm telling you, 30 is the max. And he comes back and he goes, all right, listen, it's New Year's Eve. We want to get out of here. I'm not going to lie to you. best deal you're ever going to get, because it's the last day of the month, which is good to buy. It's the last day of the quarter, which is also good to buy. And it's the last day of the year. I mean, that's a magic trifecta right there of those 3 days. So he comes out, he goes, all right, 29.4. And she's like, oh my God, we'll take it. I'm like, no, stop. You don't take we could do a little better probably. She's like, well, it's under 30. You said as long as it's under 30. So she got the screaming deal, and
you drove home in a Hyundai.
I drove home in my Hyundai. Although the XG350L was a pretty nice car. That's what became the Genesis, really.
That's true.
Well, yeah. That was their flagship luxury car, and it became the Genesis. And now Genesis is its own brand, and they're now coming out with SUVs, which are just absolutely gorgeous.
It was the Genesis of the Genesis.
It was the Genesis of the Genesis.
There you go.
And it was weird because Phil Collins came with it. He was in the back seat the whole time. Phil Collins was in the back seat. Unusual. So my advice, and the advice that it ends with here, is, the best time to buy a car is when you're ready to buy a car. I mean, there are little tips and tricks. Other than New Year's Eve, the New Year's Eve trick, I would say anytime you're ready and you need a car, that's the time to buy a car.
Yeah. And to go prepared, figure out what you want to spend, how you want to spend it, and get as much of an education up front as possible. When you get into the dealership, it's like going into, remember record stores? They used to have record stores where you think—
what is it? What is the thing you speak of?
Or libraries. Remember libraries? You walk into the library thinking, I'm going to get this book. But the minute you're in there, you're completely distracted by everything else that's there. And that's oftentimes what happens when people go into dealerships, and dealerships, they play on that. Like casinos, there's so much going on inside a casino. You completely forget that you have any kind of financial constraints whatsoever on you, and you start dumping your money in.
Yeah.
So go prepared. Get your money together, get your financing together, get your general idea of what you want together, and go in and buy that particular car.
Yes. And come and go on Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan and ask questions.
We're here for you.
We're here for you. Yeah. Don't ask them after the fact.
Yeah.
If you want a good used car, full disclosure, I work with a company called tread.com. This is not an advertisement in the middle of the show, but it's basically a peer-to-peer system where you're buying a car that's from a private party, but you get the assurances of a dealership without people pressuring you, and you can get warranties and all that fun stuff. So if you have questions about a used car, ask us about that as well. New cars, used cars, it doesn't matter. We do have a couple of questions in the comments already. Someone wants to know, and Raffi, you can probably answer this better than anyone. A person going by the name of Gigglebox,
all right,
wants to know what causes an engine to misfire, and what does that mean?
Wow. Okay. So it's a great question, Gigglebox. The misfire, generally speaking, occurs when your fuel to air mixture is not completely balanced or equalized in terms of the combustion. So the engine runs on air and fuel. Those two items come in. They come in at a regulated amount. They squirt into the combustion chamber, and the combustion fires on spark.
It goes boom.
It goes boom.
Yeah.
And it literally is an explosion. The fact that it's contained inside the cylinder chamber and has no leaks around it causes the piston to go down, which gives the crankshaft motion and sends that motion information down to the drive shaft into driving your car. So it's a very effective system when it works. Misfire can occur through bad spark. It can occur through bad fuel. It can also occur through a variety of air starvation that occurs in the combustion.
All right. Well, Gigglebox, I hope that answered your question. It definitely, now I know a lot more about misfires.
And misfire, by the way, is different from backfire, just to make sure, because you can get a backfire where the combustion does not completely evacuate the chamber and gets sucked back in, and then causes the exhaust pipe to go bang.
Oh, okay. That's when, You
There's
think somebody got shot and it was just a
yeah,
bad.
there's also some detonation that can occur on exhaust, which is also problematic. You can blow your exhaust pipe out. But none of these things, and misfire and backfire, none of these things happen to the extent that they used to happen on older engines that were not fuel injected or did not have the type of fuel regulations, electronic fuel controls that they have today.
And that would be, the computers that are in the cars now. I mean, my old '62 Chrysler, it used to, and then boom, sometimes it would give a nice little, it scares you.
Yeah, it's well, basically, again, you're exploding things inside that engine.
And it causes you sometimes to misfire, if you know what I mean.
No, those are the burritos you're having during lunch.
Michael Azadian is asking a question. Michael wants to know, what brand of car is the best to buy? Now, that's a very loaded question because it depends on what your needs are. It depends what your budget is. Toyota, Honda are typically the most reliable historically, but also Hyundai and Kia are now becoming just as good as those.
You know, the best car to buy used to be a much easier question to answer because companies had specific technology, they had specific ratings, and they had specific performance metrics that they achieved in their automobiles. But these days, you've got so many different outside vendors that are contributing to the automobile manufacturer that technology is starting to even out amongst a lot of cars. It's actually very hard to get a car these days manufactured new that is not reliable, not safe, not durable, because so many of them are built to such a high standard, and they have to be. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's no, like, Kia used to be a joke. Hyundai used to be a kind of a joke. It was a punchline. There are no Yugos anymore. I mean, everything that's out there right now is safety ratings are 4-star and above on almost everything.
Yeah.
Volvo is not necessarily the safest. Like, it was known for that.
Yeah.
But it's, it really, again, it's your budget.
Yeah.
What your uses are, how long you're going to keep a car. Now, for longevity, I know if you look on the market and you find 15-year-old Toyotas and Hondas and Acuras and Lexuses, those are holding their value better than anything else as far as old vehicles. So that tells you something. If you're going to hold a car for 15 or 20 years, yeah, go with an Asian brand.
Well, and with Honda, Toyota, and Nissan, their metrics for manufacture in the 70s and 80s were radically different from American models. So they were working with a completely different idea of manufacture and product delivery than the American automobile industry was working with. And so they built up a significant following from people that just bought those products for those reasons and then fulfilled hundreds of thousands of miles in reliable use that they never left, and they would never go back to a Ford or a Chevy or anything else, or an obscure European brand, which is how many people used to refer to Volvo or even Subaru for that matter. But nowadays, so many of the automobiles manufactured today have fantastic technology. Subaru used to have all-wheel drive that was, unique to Subaru.
Asymmetrical all-wheel drive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now you can get all-wheel drive on almost any automobile, many of which are just as reliable and durable as Subaru.
Yeah. That goes to another question. It's almost exactly a similar question. Adam wants to know our thoughts on the Dodge Journey. He said a friend recently bought one and a few people told her that they're not great cars. Well, it depends on what year it is. I mean, if it's a 10-year-old Dodge Journey, it also depends on if it's a Steve Perry Journey or an Arnel Pineda Journey. I mean, that also, the old school Journey, or where are we going with it? I'm not against Dodge Journeys as the new versions. If it's 18, 19, 20, I think car manufacturers have really gotten great in the past few years. But I think of, a 15-year-old car 20 years ago was a jalopy. A 15-year-old car now, because of technology and things that are showing up, in the cars. You can have an 04, 05, 06 that's a half decent car still.
So with the Journey, there's a couple things that I did check to make sure. They've only been making them, I believe, for about 10 years. And it's a unique platform because it does offer some interesting features, including sort of the SUV-like look with a little more minivan type delivery. But one of the challenges that they've had is that they've had a lot of durability issues with their components. I think the transmissions have been problematic, and I also think that they've had some general issues with vehicles starting to break down a little sooner in their use cycle. Around 80 to 110,000 miles, you start seeing some significant cost failures. And that's really what you want to look at if you're looking to buy an automobile that has some longevity in the market, that's been out for 10 years. You want to look at some of the cars, what their overall maintenance history has been and what their costs are as they start to age out of typical use. And typical use usually is 5 to 7 years, though many people replace their car after 2 years. But within 5 to 7 years, cars start to achieve the 75 to 90,000 mile mileage they've accumulated, and that's when you start to see some significant mechanical failures or costly service and maintenance that needs to be done.
Yeah, and now the 2020 Journey is not being made in most states, and I don't know the backstory. I just jumped on the site real quick. The 2020 Grand Caravan and the 2020 Journey model years are not available for registration in California, Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. It may result in limited vehicle area in such states. You can't register them in these states, which that's weird. I'd have to do a little background on why that is. So basically all Dodge is making now is the Challenger and the Charger, because trucks are now Ram. They're not Dodge anymore.
Yeah.
So
separate brand, like GMC.
I guess maybe the Durango they still have too. So they have the SUV is not a Ram. It's not a Ram Durango. It's still a Dodge Durango. But the Grand Caravan, I guess Chrysler is going to just be the only minivan. I never understood why they had. I mean, they used to have the Chrysler Neon, or no, the Plymouth Neon and the Dodge Neon. They were the exact same car. One was Plymouth, one was Dodge.
It has to do with the old models of brand loyalty. Plymouth was the typically the low entry vehicle. So for Chrysler, Plymouth, and Dodge, which was the three major brands that comprised Chrysler before they were Daimler Chrysler. So the Plymouth was the low market. You would start out, if you were low to middle income, you'd buy a Plymouth. You would graduate up to a Dodge, which was middle market. And then as you became I don't know, whatever, seasoned professional, you'd buy a Chrysler. And so their offerings tended to fit that. And it was designed to keep you within the Chrysler, the Mopar strategy and not lose you. So there's brand affinity in all three market structures. Ford had it as well with Ford, Mercury, and Lincoln.
Right.
And they even had their premier brand. Ford had the Continental, which was the premier brand, the separate brand from Lincoln, and Chrysler had the Imperial, which was also a separate brand from the Chrysler. So you could even go higher and higher.
Yeah. And it's kind of what Hyundai has done with Genesis. They've made Genesis like a luxury, or what Toyota did with Lexus, or what Honda did with Acura. What's amazing is Acura is like a North American brand. It's really not available in other countries. In Japan, like the high-end car is still a Honda. It's just like the Honda. I'm trying to think of the Acura Legend was a big deal, and they had the Honda Legend over there. It looked like an Acura, but it just had all the Honda badging. So we have a question that's going to lead us into our next segment that Raffi is a specialist in. Eric wants to know an advice you give someone who wants to buy a classic car that you may or may not, the car may or may not be based on a TV show. Like a 63 Volkswagen Bug, a 69 Charger, Pontiac Fire Trans Am, DeLorean, these kind of cars.
Sure.
And I think that could lead perfectly into Raffi's segment this week about going old school.
Yeah. So classic cars are a tremendous amount of fun. There's an enormous amount of clubs and activities around them. And if you like old cars, and many people do, because the look and the feel of them, they're nostalgic. They might remind you of a time when you were younger and you sought after that particular car for performance purposes or for just driving and enjoying. A lot of people, for example, buy vintage station wagons because it reminds them of when they were kids and they traveled with their family or they went camping. Many people buy vintage sports cars because they've got a kind of look and charm and feel that other cars just don't have, new cars don't have. For someone who's starting out in classic cars, it's really a personal taste, what you like, what you want. If you're mechanically inclined, even a little bit, you might want to get a car that has a little bit easier mechanical features that you can work on yourself. I always recommend for first-time collectors to look at, we talked about them earlier, look at early Mustangs, look at early Camaros, and because those tend to have a pretty strong continual market. So if you buy one, you use it, you enjoy it, you go to sell it, chances are you're not going to lose money on it. And in many instances, if you buy the bright one, you can actually gain money on it.
I mean, you know, I've had a few of these older cars, and when I sell it, I'm like, yeah, it's like going to Vegas. Yeah, I broke even. It's like you didn't break even because you forget every nickel and dime you spent, and you know, that extra hose you bought or the new carpet you bought on eBay that, you know, was only $80, but then you had to pay somebody $800 to put it in or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree that like a good classic American car is a good way to start.
Yeah. And, you know, if you don't look at it as a money-making proposition and you say, look, this is how I have fun. A lot of people golf. They go out and they spend thousands of dollars golfing with the shoes and the clubs and all that other stuff, the cars. Oh my goodness.
The bags and the lessons. Ugh.
The lessons, yeah. And all to chase that tiny little ball. So now we're going to get golf hate mail. No, I love golf. It's a fantastic game, but it has costs. And so with a classic car, there are going to be some costs. There's going to be some things that you have to, you know, you have to pay for. And as long as you factor that into your hobby, no problem. You enjoy it. And it can be a lot of fun, especially if you're older and you have younger kids. It's a great way to do fun stuff with the kids. Take them out on a sunny day, go get some ice cream, take the convertible top down, whatever. It can be a lot of fun. And there's, like I said, there's lots of shows, both local shows in your community, things you can do with old cars that can be a lot of fun and very family oriented.
So the car show is definitely a huge plus. I mean, you think about the local car show, well, right now, may it rest in peace because they're not happening. But this local car shows like we know of here, and you know the people you meet, and you know it's not competitive. You know, sometimes you do things and it gets very competitive in certain hobbies.
Sure.
Classic cars is one of the ones where people are just like, oh my God, let me go look at your car. Oh, tell me that. It's the stories and especially when you see that, you know, you get these 9-year-old guys who bought their first car, you know, 60 years ago, and that's the one that they're, you know, they rebuilt it as a teenager, and now they're still showing it, and they've been carrying it to their family this whole time.
Sure. And that's a big part of it, is being able to share those stories, talk about them. A lot of people have, like I said, nostalgic memories of them. This is the car that I took my girlfriend to the prom in, and now we've been married for whatever, 30 years. And again, for a lot of people, it can be performance too. This could be a car that is particularly fast or quick, or it could be a car that's been modified for racing that you take to special racetracks and you use them on closed courses. It could be a car that's used for recreational activity. All-wheel drive vehicle or four-wheel drive, vintage four-wheel drive vehicles are really popular. People restore them and have a lot of fun with them in a number of different contexts. And, you know, in some car shows, if you have a car that's from the 40s or 50s, people come to the show and the family dress up like they're from the 50s, and they put, little, like I've seen convertible 50 Chevys with the trays on the car, and the old jukebox, portable jukebox sitting out, the speaker to order, or for movie drive-in. So people have fun with it, and it's kind of a way of enjoying things from the past that I think a lot of people connect with.
We have a question. We're going to do one more question today, and then we're going to go to the game. The game. And the way to do the game is everybody that's watching, we're going to pick a couple of random trivia questions. You have to try to stump. I mean, we're trying to stump Raffi is really what we're doing here. And I'm going to try to answer the question as best I can, and then Raffi will probably give the right answer. So if you have any questions that you think you might be able to stump Raffi with, please put them in. They can be anything car related whatsoever. Be as obscure as you possibly can, please. And we will do that. Jonathan has a good question. What is the strategy of insurance on collector cars? I know you know this answer. The best way to make sure you get replacement value, not KBB, which is Kelley Blue Book value, which on a good classic car, KBB is typically way off.
Absolutely. And this is an excellent question, and it's one that gets commonly asked by people. If you're registering your car, it does not have to be registered as a classic car, though some states do offer classic car license plates and registration at a different cost. But your car is identified by specific agencies, insurance agencies like Hagerty Insurance, for example, which I happen to recommend because I think they have a wonderful series of not only protection models for various vehicles, but it's very low cost. There are other agencies. Chubb is another one.
Chubb,
yeah.
What a name.
But what they do is they offer you 100% stated value protection on your vehicle. And all you have to do is, if you buy the car for $10,000 and you go to register it and insure it, it's a $10,000 vehicle and you can insure it for $10,000. But if you feel as though you got a good deal and you want to insure it for full value at $12,000, that is your stated value, and they will honor that. And they have a whole list of charts and things that they follow. They trend values on collector cars. And these days, a collector car, believe it or not, can be a 1983 Mustang. It can be a 1979 Toyota. It can be any older car that you don't use as your daily driver. So that's an important distinction. Some of them will have mileage limitations, 2,000 miles or 2,500 mile limitations. But for the most part, you're going to get a very low annual premium. I have one particular car that's a classic that I have insured. I think it costs me $200, maybe $190 a year to insure it.
Wow.
And so it's very, very reasonable. And you can get a $20,000 car insured for very, very, very low money. And compared with regular type daily driving insurance, it's going to be anywhere between a third to sometimes a quarter less the premium you would pay. So I highly recommend doing it that way.
Well, he's got a 96 Turbo Supra. Now, I mean, that's not exactly a classic yet, but it is a very specific car that is definitely worth way more than Kelley Blue Book is going to say it's worth.
Absolutely. And all he needs to do is gather the information on that and then consult with the various insurance agencies and say, look, here's the conditions that I own this vehicle. Number one, I use it infrequently. Number two, I take it primarily to shows, events. And number three, although it has been slightly modified, it's not significantly modified from original. And then you simply present the values that you see from similar or comparable vehicles that are being offered for sale. And that will usually work. A 96 Toyota Supra is a rare and desirable car. Some of them sell for $60,000, $70,000. I think one recently sold for close to $100,000. It was a very, very unusually optioned, high option car with low miles.
Yeah. So you're looking for an agency or an insurance company. First of all, find an agency that represents multiple brands. That always helps. If you can find an agent that has, they're not just, no offense to, State Farm or Allstate or any of those that have just one brand. find an agency that like they cover a bunch. That helps because they can shop and find it for you, and then you have an agent working for you to get the best rates. But find one that does stated value on the vehicle, and don't be ridiculous. Don't, well, it's $1 million. I think it's worth $1 million, because they're not gonna they're gonna laugh at you probably, unless you can back it up. I mean, if it's a specific one from a TV show, let's say it's a one-off. If you got the Batmobile, you might actually be able to get it for whatever number you put on it.
4.3 million would be the value for the Batmobile.
Wow.
The original Batmobile. And that's verified because that's what someone actually paid to purchase the original Batmobile. That's a whole other story. But nevertheless, if you are having some challenges with getting the value established with your insurance company, you can always hire for about $100 to $200. You can hire an independent automotive appraiser to come to your home and assess the vehicle's condition and get the general history, and they will give you a report. I've done this several times for a number of different collectors. They'll give you a report that verifies the vehicle's value, the condition, and that stated value is what can be used to insure the vehicle.
All right. So if somebody needs to get a hold of you, they can get a hold of you, and we can potentially, Raffi can do it for you.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know. We have a question for you, Raffi.
Okay.
This is not a stump. I haven't seen any stumps yet in the comment section. If you want to stump Raffi, it's very not stump Raffi. If you want to ask a trivia question that is kind of rare and out there, I will try to answer it first, and then Raffi will answer it, and hopefully one of us will get it right, and hopefully it'll be funny. If it's not, well, then who knows? All I can say is Sterling Moss. All right. The following cars, Raffi, which one would be a better investment over the next 5 years?
Oh, okay.
Just two cars, a 66 Jag E-Type hardtop or a 66 Vet split window. Which would be a better investment?
So these are both excellent automobiles that, and I'm going to assume that the 66 Jaguar is the E-Type. Jag
E-Type hardtop.
Okay. So two schools of thought on that. Now, both of those cars have been bought and sold and gone up in value, and then gone down in value over time, and then come back up in value. Now, both of those cars, if you look long term, have gone up. If you average it out and you look at the actual lines of growth, there are dips, but it's been a continuous upsweep. Most of these cars, because they made a fair amount of them, and there are several of them still out there, most of these cars tend to be worth 65 to 80% of restoration value. So if you spend $100,000 to restore it, then you will be able to get back 60 to 75% of your investment on those cars. Now, where that changes is when you start to specialize. Now, I believe you mentioned the split window fuel injected Corvette. Now, the fuel injected Corvette was a very rare option. Few people bought that. The E-Type, however, they made several of the E-Types, and the only way you would be able to distinguish your E-Type from any other E-Type is if it had some unique history, or if it came with, it was a low mile car that was all original. I'm assuming that both of these cars will have matching number engines and everything will line up just right. But my final answer on that would be that if I was going to buy either, I would choose to buy the Corvette fuel injected car, because I do believe over the next 5 to 10 years, that car will be of greater value than an E-Type coupe. Well,
there you go. The consummate expert has spoken. The Corvette wins.
There you go.
All right, we have our first question for the game.
For the game.
The game. Right. The game. Yeah. The game. We're going to go with. By the way, the person that asked the question responded to you with correct. So I think he's verified exactly what he was hoping for.
Well, good.
All right. This is going to be a good one, Raffi. Get ready for it. Right. This is from Jonathan. We give credit where credit is due here. 1980s and early 90s Ford Broncos, F-Series trucks, and Rangers came equipped with a long arm front suspension design. Ford used different names for the 4-wheel drive and the 2-wheel drive variants of the special front suspension. Give those two names. I'm going to try this. So the 4-wheel drive and the 2-wheel drive suspension, one was called a rocker arm suspension, and the second was called a roller arm suspension. So it had rock and roll. They were kind of going for a classic theme. So the roller arm was for 4-wheel drive because they kind of rolled. So it was a roll kind of feeling, and the rocker arm was just the 2-wheel drive variant of the suspension. So you had rock and roll.
That's an excellent answer, Dan. There's a number of different answers to this question that I am going to struggle with. I want to be specific as possible. Now, there's been, depending on the year, he stated 70s and 80s. There was I-beam suspension.
I-beam, okay.
Yeah. And there was U-beam suspension. No, I'm kidding. Do we have symbol crashes here, Dan?
What about a me-beam? It's an I-beam, a U-beam, a me-beam.
There's so I gotta say that I would say that let me hear the question again, the specifics of the
80s and the long arm front suspension design. Ford used different names for the 4-wheel drive and the 2-wheel drive variants of the special front suspension. Give those two names. So just the front suspension.
So the front suspension, I'll say, was variable long arm I-beam.
Okay.
And the other term would be the long arm non-variable standard beam.
Standard beam.
Yeah.
All right, Jonathan, you have to put in the correct answer, or I can Google it real quick and figure it out. We have a question from Phil.
Phil, okay.
Phil wants to know, name a car model that used other than a push-button cigarette lighter.
Oh.
So a car model that had something, other than, so it had a cigarette lighter. Now, for the young people, cars used to have cigarette lighters in them.
People used to smoke.
People used to smoke while driving, and you push a button in, and this is now what you plug your phone into. But you push a button in, and it would pop up, and this really hot circular red thing would be there, and you'd put it on the cigarette, and you light it, and you put it back in. And if you were really a mean person, you would put a dime in there, and when you went to pay your toll, you'd flip that dime to the toll keeper. I heard somebody say they did that once, and I'm like, that's ridiculous to burn somebody's hand like that. So the one car that had a there was, I believe it was the Firebird, the Pontiac Firebird. When it first came out, they actually had a Zippo attachment that it was like an arm would come up, and you got an actual flame, and that's where they came up with the name Firebird.
There you go. Excellent answer, Dan. No,
that's my answer. I'm sticking to it.
The actual answer is the French car Citroën.
Oh, the Citroën.
Yes.
It actually had a person that would go, it had been lighted for you, please.
Exactly. Yeah, because the French, they have the cigarette, and it's very important that they're smoking all the time. So actually, if you get in a Citroën, because the French are so fond of smoking, they have lit cigarettes that are constantly being, dispensed out of the dashboard. So you never.
So the cigarettes just came right out.
Yes, they're automatically lit, pre-lit dispensable cigarettes in the Citroën.
So I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that neither of us got that answer right.
I think Phil stumped me. Good job, Phil.
Phil, congratulations. What is the correct car that did not have a push button lighter? I'm curious what it would be. Twin I-beam is. We have another person commenting on the answer to Jonathan's game question. Twin I-beam for the 2-wheel drive, and he doesn't remember the 4-wheel drive name. So that's exactly what Raffi's answer was. Twin I-beam, and we're not 100% sure of the 4-wheel drive. So Jonathan has not yet put the answer in. He might have left the show. That kind of ruins everything if we don't know. But Phil, please let us know what the car is on that one that has the non-push button lighter. Before we wrap up, we always end the show with, wrap up. It's been 50 minutes, Raffi.
Oh, geez. How about that?
I know. We went longer than last week. We always talk about gas prices. That's our big thing right now. what is the lowest price gas in the country? And gas prices, I will tell you, are going up
Yes, they are.
quite a bit. But who has the lowest price right now? And what state would it be? How much is it, and what state? Those are the questions for you, Raffi.
All right, I'm going with the state
You can
of.
probably see it in my glasses. Hold on. There you go.
There you go. I'm going with the state of Wisconsin with $1.69 a gallon.
Well, let me see something. You might be right on the amount. Nope. Wisconsin is actually way down now. They're $1.76. They're way down on the list of the lowest price. Mississippi right now has the lowest price, and they're at $1.51.
51.
$1.51 is the average. Here in Washington, we're at $2.46 is our average. With premium $2.85. Yesterday was it's actually a penny down from yesterday. We're actually a penny down, but for the week we're up a couple pennies.
We want to also encourage our listeners, if you are driving around and buying gas in different parts of the United States, let us know what you paid the last time you filled up, and we'll use your stats, because we don't have to go with these internet statistics.
Well, it is AAA. I do trust AAA for this statistics, because they do. I'm not using. I mean, Gas Buddy is another great site that people can actually go onto that site and post every time they buy gas.
Sure.
They can post what they paid, and it's kind of a crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
What's amazing is, do you know how much gas was a year ago? Right now,
oh, at least $3.
$3.54.
Yeah.
So we're down $1.10 over last year.
Yeah.
At this time.
Well, and for a while, the price of oil was in negative territory.
Well, Timothy Jones is in Denver, Colorado. He paid $1.36.
$1.36.
Now that was at Costco, but
Okay.
he did pay $1.36 yesterday. Thank you, Timothy Jones, another car guy. I know Timothy Jones, good car guy.
That's crazy. $1.36 a gallon. Just think of that. 10 gallons of fuel in your car.
$13.
It's crazy.
$13.69. $13.69 because you got to get that 9/10 in there.
That's crazy. That you could fill up your tank almost entirely. An average fuel tank would fill up for $20.
Yeah.
I mean, there was when I'm down in California, in Northern California in the fall, I've sometimes paid $60 to fill up an 18-gallon tank. 60.
Yeah.
So prices have come down dramatically.
So Jonathan Jonathan's not responded, but our James has responded. Twin traction beam was the forward.
Twin traction beam. That's it.
So it's I-beam and twin traction beam, and you're getting a text.
Sorry.
Yep, he filled his tank 18 gallons for a full tank of his. So 18 gallons, $1.36.9.
Wow.
So yeah. I'm gonna pull out the calculator. Hold on a second. Hold on. 18 times 1,369, because that is that 9/10 of a cent. Yes, $24.64 to fill a 18-gallon tank.
It's crazy. It's
under $25.
Crazy.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Jonathan came back. Is that correct, Jonathan? Twin traction beam for 4-wheel drive and I-beam for 2-wheel drive. And the final thing we end on each and every week, we pull up a couple of real quick, amazing incentives that are out there. I like to find the ones that are 0% plus cash back. And this week's biggest one that I'm seeing is a 19 Lincoln Nautilus.
Oh, wow.
72 months, 0%, $5,500 cash back.
That's a lot of cash.
It's rare they do both, but that Lincoln Nautilus, I think they brought back the Aviator for 2020. I'm not 100% sure.
And the Nautilus is a big vehicle, and they're going to be pretty heavily stacked with options. So you'll pay premium on those. So the 5,500 probably is stacked up against significant markup that they have on premium SUVs. So, but still, with 0% financing and long stretched out payments, you can get into a car like that for car payments, monthly payments that probably have never been lower.
And if you want a 2020, the only 2020 on the list that I'm looking at that has 72 months, 0%, and some money back is also a Lincoln, the MKZ.
Yeah.
Apparently Lincoln and Ford are doing some of the greatest deals right now. And they're going to have to. I mean, it really is the time, if you're looking to get a new car, now is really kind of a crazy time that's happening.
Yeah.
We did have a question here. Hold on. The 66. Was there a split window 66?
No, there was no.
That was the question. Was it 66? That was a 63 was a split window, right?
Yes, there was no split window for the Corvette in 66. They only offered it in 63. It was the first year of that body design. And it was actually a Larry Shinoda production design based on themes sketched by Peter Brock, young Peter Brock, who worked at General Motors. Shinoda then came on as the production designer and insisted on that split window. It came out in 63 with fuel injection as an option, making the fuel-injected split window 63 the most desirable of that type. But by 64, they removed it because people complained it sort of blocked the vision. And so they removed it in the 64 and put in a full back glass window. And of course, everybody who had a 63 took their car to the shop and had them saw out the center thing and put in the back windows and throw that piece away. So there were many that had to be reconstructed and have that piece put back together.
So the question Raymond asked earlier about the 66 Jag E-Type, I'm guessing he meant to say 63 split window, and that's what you were thinking of a 66 fuel injected, not a 66 split window. When you were comparing which car he should have, correct?
Me particularly, no.
Yeah, when we asking the question that Raymond asked, the 66 Jag E-Type hardtop or the 66 Vet split window. I read it. He does have in the comments as a 66 Vet split window, which is what I read.
Okay. I jumped when I heard split window. I went to the only year they made them, which was 1963.
Right. So that's what you're basing on. A 63 split window is definitely a better investment than a 66 Jag E-Type.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So,
and by the way, I'm going to also advise him to never buy somebody selling a 1983 Corvette.
Exactly. I always wanted, if I ever wrote a Law and Order episode, which won't happen, but I was going to have that be the way they figured out that the guy was full of shit. is that, yeah, Raymond just wrote back, yeah, he did mean 63. He typed it wrong, and I read what he wrote and was just reading. But yeah, he, they have a guy on the stand who's an auto expert, and the guy would say, so you're an auto expert. Now, if my father wanted to buy an 83 Corvette, what advice would you give? And then he gives like advice. He goes, aha, they didn't make an 83 Corvette. And that's how they would catch the guy. Maybe a Matlock episode. Maybe that'd be good.
The only year that Corvette was not manufactured was 83. And they were intending to bring out the 84, which was a groundbreaking design at the time. They just run into delays in delivering it. So there was no 1983 Corvette. The 84s came slightly later, and that's how it happened.
Very nice.
Technically, there is one which was a production prototype that was made for 1983, but it never went to public sale.
Did it fall into the sinkhole at the museum?
That's a good question.
Is it at the museum? I guess that's a good question.
I believe that car is at the museum, and you might be right. That might have been the one that fell in the sinkhole. Yeah, I know that they restored it after it had the damage.
All right. Well, Raffi, we broke a record. We did an hour.
An hour.
Podcast, we try to keep the show as close to 45 as possible. So
we're in demand, Dan. There's no stopping it now.
Yeah, we all these questions and people pop in and out, and they what can we do? We have a lot of things to stump for next week.
Good.
That I'm going to save because we are out of time. But
and no cheating on stumping. No cheating. You can't study up ahead of time. No cheating on stumping.
No, I'm gonna here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut and paste them, put them in a file. I'm gonna lock box them.
Okay.
And I don't know what I'll do. But we will come back next week. We'll have all of your questions and answers. If you want to send me an email, dan@danrosenberg.com, anytime during the week, we'll add it to the show for next week.
And let me jump in here too.
Yeah.
If you want one of your cars featured on Going Old School, one of your classic cars or vintage cars, send us a picture, send Dan a picture of that, just a screenshot to tell us about your car a little bit, and we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll pick that particular mark or brand or type to talk about during Going Old School.
And maybe we'll bring you on the show.
There you go.
We do have the technology. We can bring you on. We haven't done a guest yet, but we haven't had to because the content is king.
Yeah.
It's been working well. So that is it for Clutch Radio this week. Thank you very much. If you missed any of the show, it'll be streaming on all the places you're watching it now. Also, it'll be available on Spotify, Apple soon. We're still waiting for Apple's really slow right now. It's on Google Podcasts. It's on Anchor. Everywhere you're looking for your podcast, you can probably find Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan. I still have to change the name of the the Facebook page because it's still the old show, Clutch Radio with Dan Rosenberg, not Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan. So I will update that. I just haven't been able to for some reason. It won't let me change the name of the page.
Maybe we'll start a new one.
Well, we have 111 people following that page. I don't want to just lose 111 people from the old show.
We hate to let them down.
Right. So that's the show. Thank you very much. I am Dan Rosenberg.
And I'm Raffi.
I guess we're just doing first names. Oh yeah, I'm Dan.
And I'm Raffi.
There we go. And you've been watching Clutch Radio. We'll see you. Are we even calling it Clutch Radio? I mean, why are we calling it radio anymore?
Well, I
guess it is radio still.
I guess we could call it In the Clutch.
In the Clutch.
Nah.
It's too grimy.
Let's put it out to the viewers and let's have them rename our show.
Yeah, right now we're Clutch Radio, and I don't have the domain name anymore, so that's a bad thing.
All right.
There's a band called Clutch apparently, and they have a lot of stuff. So yeah, you guys can name the show. So right now it's Clutch Radio with Raffi and Dan, but we could call it the Clutch Show. We call it In the Clutch.
In the Clutch.
Clutches.
Couple of knuckle clutches.
We have all kinds of names. We ended a while ago, but we're still going. We can't stop. All right, that's really the show. We'll see you next time. Live every Saturday, 10 o'clock Pacific time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and on your podcast. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks everybody.